Jeremiah 35. This is a completely random story, which I don't know why it's inserted into this part of the book. It just is. Some ancient Hebrew prophet thought it made sense to put it here. I don't know what sense it makes, but someone thought so. Anyway, this is the word that came to Jeremiah from the Lord during the reign of Jehoiakim, son of Josiah, king of Judah. So now we're backing up to Jehoiakim, the third to last king of Judah. We had Zedekiah, the last king. He reigned 11 years. Before him was Jeconiah, or Jehoiachin, who only reigned 3 months, and he was taken to Babylon. And then his father, Jehoiakim, who reigned 11 years also. Son of Josiah, king of Judah. So this is before what we just got done reading. We've been reading about the last couple of chapters, and then the chapters before that about the covenant, the new covenant. That all happened late, near the very end of the city, in Zedekiah's reign, as the final siege was happening, like right near the very end. This now backs up a few years and goes back to the reign of Jehoiakim. This is the word that came to Jeremiah from the Lord during the reign of Jehoiakim, son of Josiah, king of Judah. Go to the Rechabite family and invite them to come to one of the side rooms of the house of the Lord and to give them wine to drink. So I went to Jazaniah, son of Jeremiah, obviously not his own son, the son of Habazaniah, and his brothers and all his sons, the whole family of the Rechabites. I brought them into the house of the Lord, into the room of the sons of Hanan, son of Igdaliah, the man of God. Sounds like a prophet, but who knows. It was next to the room of the officials, which was over that of Messiah, son of Shallum, the doorkeeper. I don't know where any of these things are. Somewhere in the temple. Okay, someone who was familiar with the temple's inner architecture and inner layout would know about this, but I don't know where these things were. Then I set bowls full of wine and some cups before the men of the Rechabite family, and said to them, "Drink some wine." But they replied, "We do not drink wine, because our forefather Jonadab, son of Rechab, gave us this command: neither you nor your descendants must ever drink wine. And you must never build houses." Now, drinking wine itself is not illegal. There's nothing saying they can't do it. Jesus drank wine. These guys had a personal commitment dating back to the days of Jonadab. We actually read about him back in 1 Kings. He was one of the... Actually, let's see here. He would be in 2 Kings. Well, he's in both. He was the guy that God chose to eliminate the house of Ahab and rid the northern kingdom of all of its Baal idolatry. And he actually was helped. This is Jehu, the king, and he was actually helped in this by Jonadab. So we read about, let's see here, where are we here? Jonadab actually assisted Jehu in this purge of Baal idolatry, and Jehu wanted his assistance. He wanted his endorsement in order to give himself credibility with the other Israelites. So that's who Jonadab is. So he has there is a background here. So this is the reply of his descendants here to Jeremiah. "We do not drink wine, because our forefather Jonadab, son of Rechab, gave us his command. Neither you nor your descendants must ever drink wine. But also you must never build houses, sow seed, or plant vineyards. You must never have any of these things, but must always live in tents. Then you will live a long time in the land where you are nomads. We have obeyed everything our father Jonadab, son of Rechab, commanded us. Neither we, nor our wives, nor our sons, nor our daughters have ever drunk wine, or built houses to live in, or had vineyards, fields, or crops." So if you marry into this family, you've got to know what you're getting yourself into. We have lived in tents and have fully obeyed everything our forefather Jonadab commanded us. But when Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, invaded this land, we said, Come, we must go to Jerusalem to escape the Babylonian and Aramean armies. So we have remained in Jerusalem. So they're in Jerusalem right now. They're not living as nomads at the moment because it's too dangerous to be out in the countryside with the Babylonian army out there on the rampage. These guys actually weren't Israelites, or at least not fully Israelites. They were related. We read about them in the genealogies at the beginning of Chronicles. We skipped these when we started Chronicles, but the first several chapters of First Chronicles are all about lengthy genealogies. And in 2 Chronicles chapter 2, verse 55, and the clans of scribes who lived at Jabez, blah, 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 blah. These different people were the Kenites who came from Hamath, the father of the house of Rechab. And that actually goes back all the way to Moses' father-in-law, Jethro, who went to Mount Sinai when the people got to Mount Sinai. We read about that in Exodus, when they first arrive at Sinai, and his father-in-law is there and goes to meet him and gives him advice on how to judge the people. And then eventually they have his father-in-law return with them, go with them to when they leave a year later. And so they're actually his descendants. So they're related to them in the sense that they come from Moses' father-in-law, but they're actually not full Israelites. But they've been living in the land and obviously are very closely allied with them, and have been since the days they first entered the land. Right now they're in Jerusalem. They had been living as nomads, but because the Babylonian army is out rampaging around the country, they can't do that, so they're living in Jerusalem. So we have remained in Jerusalem. Then the word of the Lord came to Jeremiah, saying, This is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says. Go and tell the men of Judah and the people of Jerusalem, Will you not learn a lesson and obey my words, declares the Lord? Jonadab, son of Rechab, ordered his sons not to drink wine, and this command has been kept. To this day, now that was 240 plus years earlier. This is happening in the time of Jehoiakim, son of Josiah. Let's put it at, we don't have an exact year, but let's put it at 600 BC. Okay, Ahab died, I think in the year 851 or 853 BC, and Jehu became king. And it was around that time when Jonadab was there with Jehu as he went about purging the land of Baal idolatry. And that had been about 250 years earlier. So Jonadab's word, and Jonadab himself may not have been the originator of that tradition. He may have gotten it from his father and pushed it on to his sons. I don't know. But it's going back at least to his day at this point in time. That's already been. Our entire country isn't even 250 years old yet. If we make it to our 250th anniversary, it'll be in a couple of years. I don't know if we're going to, frankly, at the rate we're going. So this is a 250-year-long deal that this family has kept, which is longer in the entire history of our nation at this point in time. It just shows you how old some of these things really are. So Jonadab, son of Rechab, ordered his sons not to drink wine, and this command has been kept. To this day they do not drink wine, because they obey their forefathers' command. But I have spoken to you again and again, yet you have not obeyed me. Again and again, rising early and sending, I sent all my servants the prophets to you. They said, Each of you must turn from your wicked ways and reform your actions. Do not follow other gods to serve them. Then you will live in the land I have given to you and your fathers. But you have not paid attention or listened to me. The descendants of Jonadab, son of Rechab, have carried out the command their forefather gave them. But these people have not obeyed me. And again, he's somewhat distinguishing the Rechabites from the Israelites because they weren't full Israelites. They were related to them, and they probably had intermarried to a large degree with them. And they were obviously very closely allied with them, but they technically weren't Israelites. Therefore, this is what the Lord God Almighty, the God of Israel, says. Listen, I am going to bring on Judah and on everyone living in Jerusalem every disaster I pronounced against them. I spoke to them, but they did not listen. I called to them, but they did not answer. Then Jeremiah said to the family of the Rechabites, "This is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says. You have obeyed the command of your forefather Jonadab, and have followed all his instructions and have done everything he commanded, or he ordered. Therefore, this is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says. Jonadab, son of Rechab, will never fail to have a man to serve me." I don't know what that means exactly. I'm guessing that means that throughout the rest of the Old Testament period, at least, there was always a Rechabite out there somewhere doing something. I can't tell you who that would have been. We don't really track the development of this promise throughout the rest of the Old Testament or anything like that. But I'm guessing we can assume that at least for the rest of the generations of the Old Testament, there was always a Rechabite serving faithfully in some way or another. This next chapter is pretty important, so I'm going to give it its own video.